Hey everybody, welcome to Season 5, Episode 2 of The Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, the chairman and owner of Peterborough United. And Darragh, I think you've been upsetting some people on Talksport this week as usual. Fresh from the studio and the high budget, big budget surroundings back to a Zoom call and a podcast. How's your week on Talksport been?
It was fun to be. I wasn't meant to do it. They rang me on Friday and begged me, quite literally, because they were down. I think Simon was off for a couple of days, and they were like, "Look, help us out." And I was like, "Yeah, of course. If I can do it, I'll always do it." We had a lot going on, but for me, it's now I'm getting used to a train in and a train out from where I am here in Weybridge. So I went in and did it. It was quite good, to be fair. I really enjoyed work. Troy Deeney was actually a pleasure. I'd always thought, not that he was a dick or anything else, but I actually quite liked him. He was really, really...
he didn't cover himself in glory, did he, at Forest Green?
No, and, when you talk to him, you go through it, and I'm actually giving him advice about that. I was at the time. But no, I enjoyed his company. He's a very, very good guy. And, it was good. It was a good couple of days. And, when I have the time, I'll do it. They've offered like a Friday gig full time, even if I'm in America. They've offered me a Sunday show, but I love my NFL on a Sunday. It's my only time, a few hours kind of to decompress. And they're talking about they want me to do something potentially with Adrian Durham, something else. But it's all talks at the moment because time schedules, all that kind of thing. I got a lot on my plate, so I enjoy going in and I enjoy when it's done, and move on and create a bit of controversy. Talk about men in women's Olympics events and stuff like that, and a little bit of controversy and throw a few comments.
Not like you to stir the pot.
No, the producer would be like you. He'd be a left-leaning Libby who likes to vote. Fucking progressive, politicians. So he's very much in your kind of, way of thinking, and it's actually quite funny, having those debates before you go on air. They give you production notes and the stuff they want to stay away from. I'm like, why are we staying away from that? Mm-hmm. I want to go all in, and they're like frightened of talking about it, and and then you get the opinion like you think it's all right, like forget about those two people in the boxing at the moment, Olympics. I'm like, women in general, men and women's sports, sports for everybody. And I'm like, you honestly believe that? And it's the people under the age of 30 who are like, yep, we believe that. Mm-hmm. Over the age of 30 are fucking horrified. So again, poor job by all the parents out there who brought some of these youngsters up. So, but anyway, enough about politics. Let's get on to the hard truth. Let's talk Peterborough. Let's talk Bradford. Let's talk a new season.
Yeah.
What's happened the last few weeks? Where were you up to?
Well, we chatted a couple of weeks ago just to kind of come up to speed on the summer, and I think you've made a couple of moves since. So where we left things was Harrison had just signed for Sheffield United. I'm not sure that you had signed Jack Sparks yet, and you've signed, you've taken your first foray into the Swedish market, I think, over the last week or so. So how's transfer business been going?
My brain's getting older, so I'm not sure if we covered the Sparks thing in the last episode, but just really quickly got a phone call. I'm sat downstairs and get a phone call late in the evening. Our left back Rio that we've signed for £500,000 is out for 4 months. So I'm like, you're fucking kidding me. Like, we had last year, we had 94% availability. Our sports department was one of the highest in the EFL. So I'm just like, what the fuck? So then we're like, we got a youngster at left back, but that's a lot to put on Harley, and he's done fantastic. Last year during pre-season, that's going to kill the kid, like to straight away 4 months. So me and the gaffer on the phone, and we get wind that the gaffer by accident was at like an LMA meeting for managers. They have to do it once a year. And he bumped into John Messina, the manager of Portsmouth, and he brought up Jack Sparks. And weirdly enough, last year, we had Jack Sparks down to talk terms. And he chose Portsmouth over us, which is fine, because Portsmouth are a massive club and whatever else. And by default, we ended up pushing Harrison as our main left back for the season. And that led to Harrison winning Player of the Year League One. That led to Harrison, obviously, having the season of his life and getting a multi-million-pound transfer. Who knows if Jack Sparks had signed last summer? I don't know if that would have happened. Maybe it would have. But like fate, the football gods. And now, hang on, you let Jack Sparks go. And Messina was like, well, he's far down the line with another League One club, so you might want to jump on it. So we were like, okay. He played like 40 odd times when they won the title last year. He created a lot of goals. People were questioning his defensive ability, but he still played in a title winning side a lot of football. And I understand Portsmouth have got some strength and depth in that department, and you have to move your budget around. So we were like, I said to Barry, the manager, we've got to jump on this. Yeah, but they won't loan him. They're only selling him. And I'm like, well, tell me the deal. So we found out the deal. We found out he was basically an hour away from signing somebody not too far from us. And I don't want to mention it because it might stoke that rivalry up. He'd agreed. He was going. So basically, I got onto the gaffer and I said, ring Joel and Archie and tell them we need their help. We have permission to talk to the player. Get into the player. Tell him he's coming here instead. I'll talk to the agent with Baz, and we knew the agent. So what blew my mind was I wish we'd known about this. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So me and Baz worked the agent, agreed the same deal. We didn't have it in our budget, in our wage cap, because we had 2 left backs. We signed one for a lot of money, and we had a younger one, and now all of a sudden shit. So we had to make some sacrifices there. More on that later. So anyway, Joel and Archie, basically, the boy straight away was like, I'm going there. Rang his agent and said, listen, I want to go to Peterborough. I'm staying in Joel's house tonight. We did the deal. He came in, he signed a long-term contract, and he played that night or the following day. And to be fair, he's a great lad. And there was no animosity last year when he turned us down. That happened all the time. Like, you come in, you get to pitch a player, you have permission. I think he was free at the time. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. So really happy to have him. Met him, great kid, great lad. Straight away played. He's super fit. Really good addition. And the fact that he's on a side where Archie plays, Joel plays, it's almost like a little bit of, they know each other.
Yeah.
Dressing room. So anyway, so that was done. We got Curtis from Sheffield United done. We've been working on that even longer. Well, probably since the Harrison deal was nearly done like 6 weeks ago. And working on that. And Wilder wanted him to come. My manager wanted him to come. Highly coveted in Ireland. Sheffield United got him. Really strong defensively. He's 18. He was Ireland's best player a year ago. Hasn't played a lot. We feel we can improve him. We think he makes our defense really strong. Where maybe one of our weaknesses is a lot of crosses coming in through our fullbacks. So basically, we worked with we think he'll work really well with 𝗛𝗏𝗂𝗁. Really, really strong addition. And we got James Donnelly, who we think will rival in there really well. So we feel strong. I was working on the Swedish one. One of the gaffers is his own analyst who basically decided to stick his toe into Sweden. Came up with this when we were going through centre halves. So he'll be a hero if this goes right. He'll be a villain if it goes wrong. So once they brought it to me, and that's how we work in recruitment. We bring stuff to each other. It's a team effort. I jumped on it. We did a bit of analysis. I worked with my own guy then on it, whatever. And I then got in touch with the Swedish club, the Swedish agent. That was a bit different. That was weird.
Right.
Forwards. Liz, fair play to her, jumped on the work permit stuff, all of that. So yeah, we got Oscar in for a couple $100,000. We feel a really, really good addition. And he's on a 3-year deal, a long-term deal. He's young, he's a great age. Every year of his career he's improved. And we feel he's one of them that's going to be an absolute superb centre half. So that was done. And then he flew in with his dad, met him. It was great. And to be fair, he played on Saturday against Notts County. We had 2 games. We had both 11s play the same day. So everyone, got 90 minutes. He looks a prospect. He's quick. He's one of the quickest centre halves I've ever seen at our club. He's played 15 games in Sweden. He's a proper centre half. He's good aerially. It was really fascinating watching us because we had Manny and him. It's the first time I've seen 2 central defenders in our team with that height. We're not as good in the air. So I think that's one thing we're definitely going to be better at. We conceded a lot of goals aerially last year from set pieces, but he can play out. Manny, God love him, was put over to the left side. That's, Manny's breaking in this year. I thought that was harsh because his strength is coming out with the ball, and now he's got to play with his left foot. Because Nevitt, obviously, I'll get to that in a sec. So they switched in the second half. Manny was much better right side. Our fans need to cut Manny some slack. He's looked unbelievable pre-season and training. He's becoming a leader. He's always going to make a mistake because he hasn't played any games. So people cannot jump on him when he makes mistakes. So it's not I'm begging. I am asking the fans to do what they did last year with some of the younger players. Manny's 22. Let Manny grow. Let him make mistakes and cheer him on if he does make a mistake, because he could be anything. He has got it all. He's a monster. He's big. He's brilliant progressively running with the ball. He's up there with Josh Knight on that. And by the way, Posh fans, he makes the same mistakes as Josh Knight would make every game. So if you watch games back without your rose-tinted glasses on, every third pass Josh would give to the other team. And I love Josh Knight, but sometimes our fans don't quite see it the same way. So Manny's got a lot of attributes, and that wasn't a slag Josh off, by the way. That was just, we're in League One. Our players will make mistakes. So we think him and Oscar are fantastic. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to ask, you say about Manny being 22, and that's still young for a player, but because your squad is so young, do you think sometimes that people lose sight of the fact that, you know, because you're talking sometimes 18, 19-year-olds, and 22 almost looks like a veteran now compared to some of your other players that, you know, 22 is still young.
It's a great point, but you can compare it like Ronnie was 18, 19, 20 comparison. But, you know, Manny hasn't played, I think he's played 5 times for us. Like, you know, this is his chance. We've got to give him a go. We've got to give him a run. He can be anything. He could save us a lot of money. You know, we all believe in him. The management staff love him. And more importantly, he's a talker and he's a leader. You know, we've got to allow him, because Manny's biggest thing is he makes a mistake, he makes 3. So we've got to teach him that you make a mistake, you keep it simple, don't make mistakes. And that will come during games. So we have to give him the patience we gave other players. So, you know, you talk about a young team. We're probably going to be younger this year, you know, than last year, even with a 32-year-old goalie. You know, I think it was 22.8 last year. If somebody probably this Saturday does the 11, it'll be probably less than 22.8. But that's okay. That's who we are. You know, we also had then George Nevitt, who's been fantastic preseason, fell over, fucking fractured his wrist.
Right.
You know, we couldn't write this shit. Then it was like, Hector's got a knee thing. It's not serious, but he's going to, you know, potentially miss first game. You know, so you're missing Matt. You're missing, obviously, George Nevitt. You're missing, obviously, Hector. You're missing our left back we spent a lot of money on. And you're starting, and I'm like, at that point, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously. So, and like key positions. But you know what? And I know fans are always like, we're going to sign another player. You can't just keep signing players every time you lose somebody to an injury. Like, you know, you've got a squad.
That's what you have squad depth for.
Yeah. So anyway, and then we signed, so we got Sam in. He looks great. We obviously got Oscar in. We've got Jack Sparks in. We've signed the Man City boy.
Yes,
we did that deal at the start of June. Then we were told he was getting brought away with Pep because of the Euros and stuff that was going on. So he came in a couple of days ago. Fantastic prospect. He was doing so well with Man City pre-season. We were worried that they would change their mind, even though we'd signed the deal and send him high up in the champ. But fair play to the boy. The boy's from Bradford, by the way. It says about his nationality, Spanish. A really interesting history. And this boy should be able to cope with League One. When you hear about like things in his life, what a proper guy, proper player. So we're really looking forward to him. So that's a strength in there, even with obviously Hector, you know, missing for maybe a game or 2. And then young Darragh is just looked at home as a 6 or an 8. Absolutely looked at home. So yeah, and we got 2 other kids we signed. One of them I think is actually Young's son, and there's another one that are going into our 21s, 17, 18, 2 proper central midfielders. So from suddenly being down to, and Ryan, of course, Ryan de Havilland's out for 3 months. He's also having fucking knee surgery. So you couldn't write the script and some of the players that were missing. But we feel strong in those positions. We feel everyone's moaning at me that we need another centre half. But you know, we have Romany, we have, you know, Nevitt's back next week. We have Manny and we have Oscar. You know, everyone knows Romany's on the transfer list. He's in the football year. That's something that came out at the end of the season. But you know, Romany wasn't cheap. You know, he was a good centre half we brought in. He's still a good centre half. He's a left sider. Gives us balance. Until Romney, you know, goes or there's a move on the table, we're kind of capped out. Like with the signings we made and the Sparks surprise, it's kind of capped us out on what we can do. We're limited, and I can only spend what I can spend. And people go, yeah, but the millions you brought in. But don't forget as well, the millions we're spending. Both millions coming in are over time, and both millions we're spending are over time, but it all works in the cap. So I said to the gaffer, you know, and also I'm trying to do some new contracts. And I said to the gaff, what's more important, that extra centre half now, or me trying to get some of those contracts done and signing the players we've just signed? Said, no. He said, forget about the extra centre half until Romney's done. You know, this is the way we're going. So you know, you focus on this, focus on potential contracts and breaking through there, which might take a while. So it's just juggling all that stuff. But we feel, I'm happy where we are. We've got a few knocks and bruises. I think we'll get through those pretty quickly. We're a pretty fit squad. You know, they were good last Saturday, the 2 teams that played, and we were excellent in both halves. And we're going to play some good football.
So we just took a quick break there because you're definitely Mr. Popular. There's a lot of things going on right now. And,
it'll come out later on, and the podcast will come out a couple of days later. You know, after turning down 5 bids for Joel Randall and the final bid the other day being 2 million, and, you know, been told he wouldn't sign a new deal and he's in his last year. I spent an hour with Joel after the first game on Saturday, and I made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and he signed a new 3-year deal, which protects our asset, one of the best number 10s in the league, and I'm very, very, very happy that's happened. So
congratulations.
So, and that's just me now. I was dealing with his lawyer, his agent, my CEO, and I just signed a DocuSign contract now. So there you go, podcast fans. You've heard all that while we were kind of
real time
and whatever. But yeah, I'm really, and another reason the cap space is limited.
Yeah.
Obviously, these new contracts go into the cap space, and, you know, trying to keep a player that another club's trying to buy for £2 million, difficult, but shows our ambition. So anyway, an asset protected for future value.
And also, you know, there's been a lot of talk on the podcast, a lot of talk on Twitter about Joel Randall and Joel's value. And, you know, obviously he did, it was probably a slow start growing into his valuation, and they did really well last year. And just shows what his value is in the football world, that you had all that interest.
He had 2 really poor years to start, not his own fault. Injuries, problems, young lad moving from where he moved from. Joel is now 24. He's just come off a brilliant season where we integrated him in as a 10. Yeah. He was one of the best 10s statistically in League One. He's grown into a phenomenal young man. He's a leader. He actually asked to be captain this year. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's been, I'm not going to say tapped up this summer, because everyone does the same thing. And I have no issue with the club who made the offer to his agent, whatever else. Life-changing money that was offered. They started at 750 grand when I was in Dubai in June. And then they came in with nearly 2 million 5 days ago. And on Saturday, his head was probably all over the place. And then by the time I spoke to him and went through it and then worked with his agent, like I said, I managed to convince him of our vision, what we want to do. And it's too soon for him to move, in my opinion. And, you know, if you're going to move, it's got to be a big, big move.
Yeah, the upward trajectory is,
yeah,
you've got even more potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel he could be anything this season. And the way we play, you know, again, I promised the manager, and I gave it to the manager. When the offer came in last week, I said, Gaffer, sending that to you. Like I said, yes or no from you. I'll back you. The manager's like, don't want to lose him. I'm like, fair play, no problem. Like, you know, I told everyone, you know, we sold those 2 players. You know, we had a hole to fill. There's a small hole left, but we're very comfortable where we don't want to sell any of our best players to fill any remaining small hole. A cup run could do that. A sell-on could do that. You know, we wanted to improve our squad, and we've lost a couple of, you know, defenders and talented players, but we feel we've improved our squad. So, you know, that's the logic. And
that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to it. It just means that you're not actively going out there, and because, as we've talked about all the time, every player has their price. But
they do, but not this August for us. So at the end of the day, I have to give our squad. We're in a league full of big teams. We're in a league that's going to be fantastic this year. It's going to be super competitive. We always fancy ourselves. We have the youngest squad in the league. We feel we've improved it. And what I don't want to do is, with, you know, days in the window, lose a key piece of our jigsaw and what we do. That might disappoint some players. That might disappoint some agents. But at the same time, I'm trying to give them new deals to make up for the disappointment. So I want to do that. And, you know, and if we're in the champ next year, there's no reason to sell any assets. If we're not, well, then, okay, we sell 1 or 2 and we fill the hole, and on we go and move on again. And that's what we do. But I would never stop a player getting a move that's unbelievable for them. Here with Darren Ferguson. And, you know, we've had bids for players who are still here, and we want to keep them. If it's Real Madrid or Liverpool, if it's the right move for them and us, Darren would probably approve it. But because we're at the stage where I sold 2 of his players, I gave him that time this summer where he could make that decision. That's not normal. That's just something I thought he deserved because of the work the staff do. And again, Alan, not teaching you how to suck eggs before you put headlines up in the ET. You know, that's something that, you know, I felt was right for the club, right for Darren. And I stick to my word on that. At the end of the day, you know, if the gaffer wants to sell any of his players, that's his decision. I will back whatever he wants to do. If he says no, no problemo. That's a one-time thing only this summer, and that was a promise I made to him. So no, we're good. Really, really good preseason friendlies. We've got some great minutes in. Touch wood, all our players start coming back. We know about Ryan. He'll be back quick. He's a quick healer. Rio's handling the operation. He's had the operation. He's okay. It was a freak injury, a bit of cartilage snapped, and, you know, thank God it wasn't longer. So now we'll have Rio and Sparksy by the end of November competing, you know, with left back. We've got some strength and depth. You know, would we like to add another centre half once Romany, you know, moves on, and we've had some bids, you know, and to be fair, we also have other players. We have, you know, David Ajiboye was also on the list. There'll be interest in him later in the window, and obviously Tshimanga, you know, as a striker, we've had offers from 2 top non-league clubs want to sign him. Again, he's on our cap space, and to be fair, you know, he said he doesn't want to go to those clubs. That's his prerogative as a player. I get that, but my advice to him is go win the Golden Boot in non-league and write your own ticket. You know, there's a club in League Two have come in and they haven't offered half of what the clubs in non-league have offered. So the player obviously wants to go there. I said, we spent money on you. We have to do what's right by the club. With all due respect, you're getting paid your wages. You know, you could go to that League Two club. You could end up on the bench. You could end up, it doesn't come off. And then where are you going to be in a year's time? So we feel at your age, go to the top of non-league. It's pretty much like the 5th division anyway, or the 4th division, you call it now. Go and score 30 goals, go win the Golden Boot, get that team promoted, and write your own ticket. But him and his agent, you know, at the moment are like, no, we're not doing that. Okay, fine. You want to play 21s football, play 21s football.
But they probably say we've already done that. We've been there, done it, and got our way out of.
That's what they said, and I'm like, yeah. Well, a year out of football, not playing, and playing 21s. Let me tell you, you might even get top clubs in non-league watching. So, you know, the advice always is, you know, bird in the hand, go and do the business and be respectful and speak to those clubs. But, you know, this club in League Two are taking the absolute mick. You know, they're offering basically, it's worse than the Bradford offer for Romany. So, you know, and I'm just like, no, you can go fuck yourself. We've done you loads of favours in the past. And, you know, and then we got young Jacob at Gillingham. I was happy people were like, why are you dealing with Gillingham? You know, well, I believe Scally's not really involved anymore. So we dealt with Kenny Jackett. That was great. Jacob wanted to go out and play. You know, he's been brilliant pre-season. We were okay with him staying, but he felt Ricky Malik, he wasn't sure he was going to get the games. He doesn't want to play out wide. We've got lots of wide players. So we were kind of the thinking is Jacob's young. We spent like, you know, 150 grand on him last year, 170 grand as a young player. We feel if somebody signs him, and this was part of the deal, he's not a wide player, play him down the middle, he will score 25 goals in League Two. We feel really strong about that. So we were like, we looked at the teams. We had 3 offers. Gillingham I picked because I like their wide players. I think they're going to create a lot of goals. It will suit Jacob. He's rapid. He's everything like a good League Two team will want. And I think that deal has put Gillingham in the top 6 favourites for League Two now. Bradford never called about Jacob. So, yeah, you know, so that was that was a really, really good deal to do. So, yeah, so we've got a couple of bits to do, whether it's Ajiboye, whether it's Romany, you know, whether it's Tshimanga. We move those pieces on. It frees up cap space, but we're going to do it on our terms. We will, you know, we agree a deal. The player then can decide if he wants to go, if the player wants to stay and, you know, not be involved or, you know, try and fight their way in, which will be very difficult because we've got a big squad, end up playing 21s football. You know, but all I can do is just say to the player and agent, there's a deal there. Do you want it? Do you not want it? No, we don't want it. Okay, fair enough. That's up to you. So I can't force footballers to do things like, you know, Marcus Maddison not so long ago had a choice of going to Birmingham and Charlton. And they would have made him a very wealthy young man. And he turned them both down and thought he could write his own ticket, leaving on a free and cost the club £1 million and all that. And he was getting offered at the time 10 grand a week. And I believe a year later, he ended up on 1,500 quid a week somewhere. And then later than that, he ended up banged up. So my advice to young players and players always is take a look at some of the situations, you know, and what can happen when you make foolish decisions. Don't always listen to your agent.
So last year, like in years past, there's been a lot of hype around the start of the season. And then last year, you know, you kind of tempered down the hype and expectations, so not to put it on the players so much. Is it same kind of approach this season?
Same kind of approach. Really level-headed. We have a really young squad. We have a lot of players getting to know each other. We have some great lads in there now. It's really funny. I was checking in yesterday with our what do they call it now? Safeguarding officer about the young, where they're living, who they're living with. I wanted to find out who's pairing up with each other because I said to the Nevets of the world when they join and some of the young players, don't live in your own. I know you all earning plenty of money now and you can buy the car and get a penthouse, but don't live in your own. Like some of them are 19, 20, 21, 22. So I kind of encourage some of the younger players, when you become mates at camp in Spain and get to know each other over the summer, move in together, like spend time together, preferably defenders together as well. Like sometimes units together. So it's fascinating hearing about some of the younger players who they've ended up like taking as flatmates. Some of their flatmates aren't as much money, so they had to take that into account and and just making sure that we're developing and creating that camaraderie, that atmosphere within the team. I think the manager's announcing the captain this weekend. You know, we have a leadership group. I think in the leadership group is Ned Flanders, obviously the oldest. Archie's in there. Joel's in there. Hector's in there. I want to say, who else am I missing? Someone else in the leadership group. We call that a leadership group with players who are 23 and 24 and 22.
Right.
So you know, that's the leadership group. So about expectation, whatever else is, look, our goals are always the same. Our goals are to play great football, to, you know, make sure our fans enjoy it, you know, make sure the product's really good, make sure that we go into every game wanting to win every game, score goals, you know, have a successful season. We want to, you know, always we want to be up there for promotion. We want to do well in the cups. We want the club to basically pay its bills, you know, bringing in enough money from cups or, you know, successful season. We want to improve our crowd. We had our best ever attendance in League One last year. We want to actually smash that and go further. You know, we were a few years ago at 7. Last year we got to 9. Can we now get 5 digits and go to 10? That might make you, instead of being a tin pot club, you go into the, as people like to call you, you suddenly go into the 5 figures of fans like Bradford have. You're now into the tens of thousands. So we'd love to do that. We've got the mega store, which is underway. That's like nearly 550 grand that's costing me. So that's going to be open, I think, just before Christmas, 3,000 square foot mega store. I gave the final approval on that like 10 days ago. The academy is I was with the academy the other day. Sorry to bore everyone here, particularly if you're Bradford fans listening. I was with Dan, who runs our academy. I was with the 21s management team, you know, head of performance. And it was a great meeting. We were going right down through the ages, like on the graph, you know, from the 11 and 12-year-olds. We were talking about a 21s team. We feel we've strengthened the 21s team this year. And we've just signed these 2 midfielders. We signed a 6'3" goalie who's 18. I believe he was released from a championship club. Dan sees high potential in him. And then he was showing me a 14-year-old at Newcastle, and 6 other Premier League clubs are trying to, not say take, but obviously now trying to negotiate with us a wide player. And I said this before, we've got 3 or 4 wide players who are some of the best we've ever produced. So unfortunately, until they get to an age where they're pro, they can get taken. When I say taken, we'll end up getting 500, 600, 700 grand, maybe more, depending on, you know, when I say 5, no, scratch that. We're actually looking for more because of the talent. Obviously the law, I think it's upwards of over 800 grand.
It depends on your academy status as well, doesn't it?
It's that and a few other things, but we don't want to lose this boy, but we probably will. You know, there's a queue of clubs who want him. So yeah, there's all those little interesting things going on. The academy, and I was just going through and I was like, look, that's the last one. The next 3 I want signed down. I want to keep them. I don't want to. We sold Benji Arthur to Brentford last year. I believe he's pulling up trees. You know, he'll be in the first team like in a year or 2. You know, we want them in our first team. You know, I said to them, be proud that Harrison and Ronnie, because Ronnie joined us at 15, 16 and played in our academy. I said 2 of the biggest deals in the EFL since January were 2 academy players from Peterborough. Be proud as a cat too. That's another little, you know, string to your bow that we're doing it now as an academy. And now what we want to see next year and the year after is now serious flood of talent coming through the 18s to the 21s to the first team. So fucking excited about that.
You know, it's interesting. Like, so it gets leveled at City because we lose a lot of young academy talent, and we're Cat 3. And you know, it's cited as lack of ambition by the club. And why don't you give these players the, you know, the pathway into the first team and all that kind of stuff? Like you said, there isn't really a lot as a football club that you can do about some of those younger players. And you know, what's amazing to me is how the fees involved there'll be bigger fees for a 14, 15-year-old to a Premier League team than you'll ever get for a 25-year-old League 2 player.
Right, and if you as a club can use that to help your budget in the first team and help your academy on certain things, you're all for it. I mean, every club should do it and have to do it. And I always say every year, a bonus sale from our academy is a 12 or a 13 or 14-year-old who won't affect our first team this year. I'd like to get to the point where I'd like to keep them, but at the moment we can't. So when we have a £5-6 million hole every year, you know, we're signing these players and we're renewing contracts. Sometimes selling an academy youngster who won't do anything in the first team for 3-4 seasons is a necessary evil to help now. I want to get to the point where we're a championship team and we're not under that pressure and we can go, no, fuck it. We want to keep that 15-year-old because in 18 to 24 months' time, he's on a pro deal and he's in our first team squad. But right now, we can't. And we've lost some really good players recently. The striker went to Crystal Palace. We lost a boy to Norwich. We lost a couple of players to Leicester a few years ago, or 12, 13 years old. And then we lost the boy to Brentford last year. Oh, fuck. You look at those players now, you know, they could be in our first team and worth a lot more. Look at the Harrison deal. Yeah. The Harrison deal in time, we worth a lot more than the reported, you know, 6 million or whatever else. When you think that's homegrown, there's no sell-ons. The only fees you have in there are factoring fees if you bring in the transfer fee for it. That's all profit for the football club for, you know, paying our bills and reducing debt. So, you know, they're the ones you want. And every club should, as much as we hate the Premier League thing where they can not steal them, but do this because of the TV deal we signed years ago, it's a necessary evil for all of us. And Man City have the best academy in my opinion, in the world, and they do it. They produce players like Cole Palmer that aren't going into the first team because, you know, Pep's got, you know, an embarrassment of riches, and they can sell them for 50, 60 million or sell one to Southampton for 20, 30 million. So that's the best academy in the world doing it. So there's no reason we can't do it. So look, transfer-wise, we're going to investigate Sweden. We're going to investigate a few more European countries. I got my scout. We're putting together a proposal, a project. We're going to allocate a small amount more funds. My management staff have asked me, can they go during international breaks and watch the games? We're now going to do that. So I'm going to spend on that. You know, our academy, we're basically going to, I've met the other day. I've got a few projects in mind about the current training ground and some land next to it. We want to do more pitches. We want to potentially move the first team away so the academy, there's a cross the bridge moment from when you're an academy member instead of all being in the same area. I want to spend on the facilities there. I want to make our facilities better. Our youth is our future. It's the way we can be the best sustainable football club in the EFL, wipe all our debt out and have the best facilities. We're in a really good neck of the woods. We feel the talent coming around. We can get it in and we can bring it through. So I've got some real mad, like long, ambitious things, which have always been like touch the star. Sky reach there, and if I fall a bit short, I'm okay with that, but I'm really, really excited about it. So answer your question, for the season, all those things I want to go. I want the best for my staff, best for my players. I want my fans to be happy. When they're not happy, I want my fans to think of these words I'm saying to you. Think about the boys out there. Think about what they're trying to do. Think about when they make mistakes. Let's get with them instead of against them, because I think that made us so much better last year, where it enabled us to go to Derby away, be 1-0 down, be 2-1 down, and come back and win. You know, go to places where we made mistakes and we still came back and won because our fans fucking loved what we were cooking. And sometimes they might get the odd bad taste in what we're cooking, but overall the meal's fucking delicious. So if our fans can get on board for that, and we can go out and fight these big dogs in the league, you know, and be little old Peterborough as usual, which although I see all the odds and I see all the tipsters, they don't really.
Are you going to be mid-table again?
No, actually, no. That was some gobshites who do EFL stuff. But today there was like 9 different ones came out. They all had us either 4th, 5th, or 6th.
Okay.
When I was on Talksport, the betting guy was on and had us. I think we were 6th favourite to win the league. So a lot of the experts, you know, you get your odd gobshites on Twitter who have all that. But you know, if they all think we're not a small club, they're the experts, right? But we'll happily play the underdog. You know, even though I think we're the 2nd biggest spenders this summer after Birmingham in our league. So I don't never want to hear about we spend every summer. So excited. Doesn't matter the result against Huddersfield. I'm excited. I think we're going to have, by the end of the window, a lot of talent. I've got the best coaches to improve that talent, and we're going to go forwards and hopefully score a lot of goals and enjoy ourselves. So enough about that. Let's talk Bradford.
Yeah, and there isn't actually a lot to talk about us. I think that since we last did the podcast a couple of weeks ago, we brought in Jack Shepherd, who came in from Barnsley on loan. What's that?
What position?
Centre half.
Okay.
So I think maybe left-footed centre half. We really still need to get players out, I think, before we can bring anybody in. There's been murmurs this week about Jake Young, and I'm not sure if it was Stevenage or Crawley that were interested in him, but we'll see. We'll see if anything happens with that. If we do a deal with that, I think we need Vidane Oliver to go with him, just because I know that he's one of the high payers that we're really trying to offload. But to your what you said earlier about you kind of play on the sidelines for 12 months. The season that you scored a lot of goals becomes a more distant memory, then the market for your services becomes smaller, and I think that's a challenge we have with Vidane Oliver.
How's Jake Young done pre-season for you?
He's been. I wouldn't say that anybody has done particularly well or badly. It's been a really interesting kind of so-so preseason, which has led to there not being a lot of expectations, and I think that might actually be a positive thing. You know, we usually go in at the start of the season with all these, we're Bradford and we have all these fans, so we deserve to win the league by Christmas. You know, and that feeling isn't around the club at the moment. Now, on the negative side, it will only take 2 or 3 early losses to turn toxic.
As is football.
Yeah, so I think that there is that risk that exists. I think we're all just waiting and seeing. You know, you look at the pieces and you think, man for man, this is a pretty strong squad. But let's see how they put it all together.
Well, I looked at it and I was kind of studying the League Two thing the other day. I've been watching, obviously, some of the info on your games pre-season.
Yeah.
And I understand what they did. The Barnsley one over the Romney one. They obviously don't have the wages to pay for Romney to go there. I have you looking at it 5th or 6th.
Right.
Would that be correct, or is that me being overly confident because you're a Bradford fan?
No, I think that's fair. I mean, you still go into the season, given the squad that we've got, you know, there is some serious talent in the squad. So I think not making the playoffs in League Two would be a very big disappointment again. And, you know, so much of the talent in League Two is very similar from team to team. So then it becomes, okay, how are you going to gel? You know, how are you going to, how well is the manager going to manage that campaign? How lucky or otherwise are you going to get with injuries, which I'm never that confident about with us because we always seem to sign, and we've talked about this for years, you know, the two of us, like, why do we keep signing players that have injury records? And so we're tempting fate before we even start.
Yeah.
So
pitch good. Your pitch looks fucking really good. I saw like some pictures. Does it play as well as it looks?
I don't think there's been any complaints so far. You know, Sunderland and Marseille played on it last week as well.
Good.
You know, it's in our experience, the pitch has been a 2 or 3 year thing. You know, first year looks really good, second year deteriorates a bit, third year turns into a pigsty like it did if it's not been treated. So you know, when Mark Hughes was there, Mark said his only one thing that he asked for was a good pitch. And so we put a lot of resources into that and we were able to maintain it. So I'm hoping that we're able to do the same this year. Because, I mean, we really struggled with that last year.
No, I know you did. There was a lot of complaints. They've spent money. Look, I'm going to give Ryan props because he gets a lot of fucking slate, including over last week when we spoke about the Romney thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've invested in the pitch. He's brought in David Sharp. You know, they're trying to give the fans everything they want. So I think Bradford fans, as opposed to before when you lose a game, need to calm down and not go Harry Carey on it. Do you know what I mean? And just give it a bit of time.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Stefan promised to make more money available from a budget perspective. So you have, you know, the mumblings you see is, I don't see where that money went. And, you know, the money has gone on a pitch. The money has gone on, you know, David Sharp coming in to lead the recruitment side of things. The money has gone in a stronger backroom for physical conditioning and physiotherapy.
Yeah.
You know, money has gone on players, but because we've not signed anyone really for a while, and I think there's this thinking that, well, you know, we promised to spend all this money and we haven't spent it, but I'm sure it's been spent in areas that are not necessarily immediately visible.
No, 100%. So let me ask you a couple of important questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, what's your final prediction for Bradford this season? And two, who's the breakout star? Forget about your usual big guy up front scoring goals. Who's the breakout player of the year for Bradford this year?
So I do think that we should have minimum expectations of playoffs.
Okay.
So I think that anything lower than 4th or 5th would be seen as being a disappointment.
Okay.
From a breakout player perspective, I think I've got 2 answers, and they're both kind of in the same position. You know, one is not so much of a breakout because he's a very good player, but was injured most of last season, and he's no youngster, and that's Alex Pattinson.
Okay.
And you know, keep him fit. I think he'll have a big impact on the team this season.
Okay.
From a youth perspective, it's, you know, going to be interesting to watch the continued growth of Bobby Poynton.
Okay.
And actually whether he gets the opportunity. You've got Jamie Walker, you've got Patterson, you've just signed Sasovic. Those are all in kind of the same position as he is. So whether he gets the minutes and whether he continues to grow. But he just signed an extended contract for, I think, the next 3 years. So I think that was a good move to get him under contract for longer.
So what's your prediction? Don't say this is the very. Where do you think you're finishing?
5th.
There we go. You heard it here. Hardtruth.com. Bradford fans, 5th. Make sure you send in your messages and tell us where you all think you're going to finish.
Yeah, and the abuse when we're 15th in the table come November.
Titles aren't won in November, Philip. All right. So
look at Doncaster last season.
Exactly right. And look, we're all football fans. It's rich of us to preach to football fans to be patient, to support players, to not get carried away, because in a perfect world, you'd like it to be that way. But we've all been there supporting our team, getting the fucking hump, wanting to moan at managers, owners, fucking, that's just par for the course. Do you know what I mean? So as much as I preach it and say it, I understand when fans, all I ever ask is be respectful.
Yeah.
When you come at the king, be respectful. All right. No, don't be insulting. Don't be whatever else, because otherwise you're going to get it straight back, Hard food style.
Well, let's quickly go around the other leagues and starting the Premier League. So I watched your boys Liverpool against Man United over the weekend. Went on a road trip up to South Carolina, and Kelleher was really good in goal. He won 3-0. Probably wasn't a fair reflection of the game just because of the saves that Kelleher made throughout the game. But you looked pretty. I know it was a mixture of reserves and some first-team players sprinkled in, but it was a relatively easy stroll in the park for Liverpool.
Barry Fry always says, ignore pre-season. Does your fucking head in. 18 years I've been doing it. And you watch this pre-season, you win a game, you think, fuck, you're brilliant. And then you play a game and you struggle, you think, fuck. And Barry would always say, ignore pre-season. It's never a precursor of what's coming next. Man City notoriously, I think, have lost a lot of their first game of the season. And then they don't lose again for like 5-6 months when they get going. So pre-season is about fitness. It's about patterns of play. It's about figuring out your squad. It's about what do you need to add? What do you need to take away? Who do you need to move on? Yes, Liverpool have looked good. I'm very, very optimistic about him. I like hearing him. I think he's very different to the guy at United. I was kind of worried, is he going to have that kind of personality? I quite like Slot. I've watched the way they want to play. They want to play through midfield a lot more. They want it to be a little bit more slow build-up. I think they're missing a 6. I think what do Liverpool need? A 6, somebody to replace Robertson. Maybe not this season, but it needs to be one eye on replacing him by the end of the season because he's that way. And I still think they need a wide player or a 9. So I'm not convinced. I've never been overly convinced of Luis Diaz to score goals. Jota can't stay fit. I think he's brilliant, but he can't stay fit. Darwin really, this is season 3 now. I'm a big fan, but is he going to score 25 league goals? Mo Salah would be brilliant for January. You worry about the other half of the season as he gets older because we've seen that in the last couple of seasons. So I don't know. If I was to say, I'm confident of the top 4, but I think it's going to take a while to get there. And it'll be interesting to see if Fenway back him. I know they're going to sell some younger players. That might fund some deals. So I really don't know. I can't look past Man City.
Right.
If Arsenal sign a prolific number 9 or a proper number 9, I think Arsenal will win the league and Man City will win the Champions League this year. If Arsenal don't do that, then I think Man City win it comfortably.
Yeah, and then you have Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton coming up. Are you expecting struggles from those 3, or
I think Southampton and Ipswich will stay up.
Okay, so Leicester in trouble.
I don't like making predictions that are nefarious or negative or whatever else, but out of those teams, I fancy Southampton and Ipswich. I'll be happy to be proved wrong, but it would be interesting.
What do you make of this whole selling players the day before to align with financial fair play? And I mean, just seemed like a carry on. And then I hear, you talking about on Talksport, whether it was today or yesterday, maybe it was yesterday, around supposed relief that Man United have been given as well. I mean, it kind of makes a mockery of it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, all these teams agreed with those rules. They put that PSR rule in place, and what they've done very cleverly, like I do, is they came up a way to circumnavigate it.
Mm-hmm.
So that teams like Newcastle wouldn't have to sell their best player. You know, one of their best players, Anthony Gordon. Other teams the same. Villa got in the sales they needed and then went on a spending spree. I would just say, look, in future, when you agree a deal, do one where you're all comfortably happy with. And I don't want PSR because that's a trickle down. If the Premier League aren't spending big, it doesn't trickle down to our leagues. And we're already starving as it is. We need more breadcrumbs. So the last thing we need is a depressed transfer market. We don't need a recession transfer market. Regards United and what that guy on Talksport was saying about them getting, I have no idea about that.
Right.
So it's not that I'm a United fan, but I don't want to comment on something I've got no infinite knowledge on. All I'd say is that, you know, it's meant to be the biggest league in the world. You know, why do we want to handicap that league and its growth by bringing in rules to stop them spending money? I agree with not spending billions and silly money, clubs in trouble. But, you know, bar Everton's recent woes, and I've talked a lot about that on Talksport, and don't think they're going to be in trouble or have an issue selling. You know, what top Premier League club, top 20 clubs gone out of business? So there's a lot of flapping about nothing, in my opinion. And I think they need to loosen the rules.
And as you've talked about before, what better way to invest in the pyramid to make exception for English talent, like English talent below the Premier League?
Correct. Absolutely. And we hope Ronnie has a breakout season. We hope Harrison gets promoted with Sheffield United. And we hope Ephron Mason-Clark is the best winger in the champ and gets promoted with Coventry. Mm-hmm. We've got many millions of reasons for all three of those predictions to hopefully come true. Please.
And waiting to see if Sammie makes his move. Sammie Smozdoics makes his move to the Premier League.
Hopefully he will go up. I've said it. I know obviously Ipswich have been linked with him. I know they're in. I'm astonished none of the big clubs at the top of the champ have tried to break the bank to sign him. Mm-hmm. Anytime you can get a guaranteed 25 goals a season player, it makes no sense to me why you wouldn't be at the table for that player. But what kind of, who's just, you know, that kind of game changer with the pressing and the way they play.
But is there the money in the top of the Championship from a transfer fee perspective to rival, you know, what a Premier League club can pay?
Well, with all due respect, you know, any club that comes down, and I would class whether it's Sheffield United, Leeds, Luton, they've got, I think, 160 million in parachute payments. Say Sammie Smozdoics cost you 15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Sign him on a 4-year deal. You're paying the 15 million over 4 years. You know, his club would take it probably over time, as most deals are done. Yeah. So really, in your cash flow, you're talking about, with his wages, signing on, everything else, probably 4 million more a year than you'd spend regularly to get a Golden Boot winner.
Yeah.
Who's the finished article, who's going to go in your team and score a lot of goals. So I'm not sure those teams coming down or the teams at the bottom of the Prem. I've seen Southampton need a striker. Like Ben Barrett and Diaz, fair play. But like, what are you waiting for? Like, again, I don't know. I just don't understand it.
You talk about amortizing the transfer fees, right? And so, you know, you look at it as kind of an investment. So £1 million player, you're going to pay £250,000 a year over 4 years, an example. So you're only 250 in a year. You look at it and think a player is going to, if a player lives up to his potential, and you're able to sell him for 2 anyway. So, you know, it's a kind of a no-brainer. At what point, though, in their career, do you start, as players get older, do you lack that ability to resell later? So it's a bigger risk to pay a transfer fee because you can't then make that back later.
So 2 things. You're buying Sammie Smozdoics to get promoted. Mm-hmm. You're not buying them to make a profit. You need to get promotion. Yeah. Teams that come down need to get back up quickly. Because parachute money runs out. So you can still buy your young players to make money on, but you need a proven championship goal scorer to give you a 95% chance of being up there at the end of the season to win promotion. And then there's another 250 million up for grabs. So you're going to buy them for 4 or 5 million a year over 4 years. What's the problem? If you're a Peterborough and you buy a Smozdoics from Bristol City, you pay $1 million. Clubs our size don't usually do that, but we do. You do it over 4 years at 250 a year. So I look at it with his wages and bits and pieces. I look at it as we're spending $500,000, 600 grand a year on a special player, or whatever it might cost. It's worth it for us because again, he's going to put us up there. And not only is he going to put us up there, when I bought him at his age, I'll always have the chance to get my money back, if not double, treble my money. So by the time the sell-on goes through and he gets sold and whatever else, we'll have trebled our money, if not a little bit more. That was an investment worth taking. So, you know, as long as you can do a deal over time with the club you're buying from. Ironically enough, the person I did the deal to buy 𝗛𝗿𝗂𝘃 was Mark Ashton, who was at Bristol City. And me and Mark Ashton did the deal when I bought 𝗛𝗏𝗃 from Bristol City. So, you know, that again, that's like a football irony that Mark Ashton's now trying to acquire Sammie from Blackburn. So it's funny how football works. So luckily for me, the Bristol managers didn't fancy him, and I was managed to swoop in and get him, and he was fabulous for us. And I'll be so happy for him and his family that he gets to play in the Premier League. Another Peterborough player in the Premier League. Fucking love it.
And he's retained his connection to Peterborough since he left as well, hasn't he? So, you know, he comes back for games.
Brilliant. He's brilliant. Messages all the time. He did come back for games. He's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Sammie's a footballer's footballer. So I'm not surprised by that. He's got that little bit of bulldog spirit in him where he's a tough little motherfucker. You know what I mean? And that's would describe him as a player as well. You know, the fact that, you know, people thought probably Blackburn was as high as it was going to go for him. And he's gone there and he's basically become the main man. Now he's ready to go again, whether it's to the top of the champ, whether it's to the Premier League. You know, that is a credit to him and his family. And, you know, delighted for him. You know, regardless of us making a few quid, this will be life-changing for him and his family. And this will set them up for life. So he already makes good money. Now he's going to make extremely good money. When I see things like that from my players, whether it be Boyd, Tomlin, Gale, you know, Assemble, all those people down the line, Ivan, Tony, delighted. Really, really happy for him.
So I know we're going to get deeper into each one of the leagues as we go through kind of the next few weeks, but going into the Championship, we have Sheffield United, Burnley, Luton, who came down. Obviously, you're hoping that Sheffield United are able to return, given the Harrison deal.
I think all three of them will be strong. I think Coventry will be the outsider, but I really, really fancy them this year. And then who else out of the bunch? Middlesbrough will be Middlesbrough. Yeah,
Leeds. I mean, Leeds now have Red Bull ownership as well.
Leeds need to make some signings. Leeds need to make some signings. They've lost a lot of attacking talent. Like, you know, Leeds are the biggest club in that league. And I don't know, I think they did this last year. They sold and then they brought in late. But they need to make some signings, definitely. And then the outside one would be an outside tip, because you couldn't really say Coventry are outside. They've always been consistently top 8 in the champ the last few years. A real outside tip, you know, who people probably don't fancy, for me, would be Norwich.
Okay, why?
I just have a good feeling that they're gonna be good. So watch out for them. And those asking about the teams that went up from League One, I think Portsmouth will comfortably stay up.
So let's go. It's into League One. We've obviously talked a lot about Posh. Birmingham, obviously big spenders. We've talked about that in the a couple of weeks ago, and that doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon either. So they're the team to beat, I think.
They've got a year, I think, dispensation on what they can spend, so they're going at it. They're trying to build a team. I think they're building a team with one eye in the league above. So we know they'll be the pace setters. Rotherham will be very strong. Huddersfield will be strong. Who else in there?
Bolton.
Bolton will be very strong. It will be a fascinating League One. It'll be really interesting. So I people say call League One. I can't call League One. You know, there's so many teams. Lincoln are a team to be respected for what they do. You know, like there's a lot of good teams in League One. Charlton with their manager have done some good business. You know, don't
Reading, you know, coming off a bad season.
Reading, I think they're going through a takeover. So, you know, great academy, great players, even though they can't sign anyone. So don't sleep on a few of those teams, you know, and there'll be some surprises. So who knows? But it'll be a very competitive league.
At the other end, Crawley basically sold everybody and they've rebuilt again, which...
Clever manager.
Yeah. I mean, is that... I know you've talked before around you wish sometimes that you would have change things faster and not, you know, that giving players the opportunity who got you promoted is something which hasn't worked when you've stepped up a division. Are Crawley taking that to the extreme, do you think? Or
they had no choice. I think their players were coveted. They did well. They would have had release clauses probably. Went to Crawley. I think their manager's very, very good. I love the way he plays. And I think, I'm actually going to say it. I think they'll be absolutely fine. So, it'll be interesting, and there's so many teams in League One. Like I said, don't sleep on them. Burton have signed 38 new players.
Yeah. Wrexham, of course, coming up.
Wickham have got the richest man in the Football League owning them. It is what it is. It's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold. And then you go into League Two. And I've shouted already. I said I think MK Dons will win the league by 10 points. Yeah. I think Wimbledon will be stronger. I think Bradford will be up there. And I think Gillingham will be, one of them who I'm tipping. And don't discount, Doncaster with McCann.
Yeah. And Port Vale have been spending some cash. Carlisle have been on their return to League One. Chesterfield, going for a double promotion.
Cookies, no mug. So, I think it's going to be one of the best EFLs for years. I really do. I think there's going to be surprises. I think there's going to be shocks. I think there's going to be some great football. I think, it's going to be a fascinating watch this year. As our product grows out, as an EFL, I'm quite excited to see what's about to unfold.
So for a club like Bromley, they have obviously coming into the league. What advice can you give clubs that are coming in from National League who maybe, and this, I have to say, I don't know exactly the circumstances around Bromley. You just look at clubs that have not really been in the Football League coming up into Football League. What would you do bringing a club up to the Football League for the first time to kind of try and maintain the EFL status and something to build on in the future?
Because historically, I think 80% of clubs promoted are always in the top 6 or 7 in League Two. So if history teaches you anything, you actually don't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
The same team that got you promoted, the large nucleus of them should actually have you top half of League Two.
Yeah.
So my advice to everybody in every league is always make sure you've got a great number 9. Always make sure you've got somebody who can score goals no matter what. Always make sure that you've got those pieces, in key positions, and make sure your manager is fundamentally a good manager. So again, Bromley are no mugs. Great setup there apparently. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Don't be shocked.
And oftentimes it's the second season or third season that's actually more difficult. Sutton United found. Why is that? Is it because the players get more of a shop window? They can't hold on to the better players that got them promoted. It's harder to recruit because of who they still are. And is that basically the story?
You've answered your own question. And all those points you made, which are pretty relevant, recruitment, losing your best players. Look at Crawley. You have a great year, you win promotion, and suddenly fucking 80% of your squad's nabbed. That's just the way it goes, right? Those who can kind of keep the nucleus of their strongest players around always tend to do better. And next to that's recruitment. If you can get your recruitment right, you're off for the races. So that we always say this, and I say it to you constantly: recruitment is key to all. And if you can get that side of it right, you've got a chance anywhere. So all I'll say to everyone out there is look, enjoy the season as best you can. Remember that every year you're a fan and every year you're an owner, you're involved in football and you're alive. Appreciate the fact that you're alive. Appreciate the fact that, there's no God-given right. You could walk out on the road and get hit by a bus tomorrow. So, we're very thankful, and I'm very thankful for everything. And, let's all have a great season. And like I said, we need the Posh Bradford win double promotion, and we need the cup final between these two.
We got close. I hope that that's not as close as we were going to get, and we go one step further this year.
We got to go all the way through. The draw's got to be kind. That final's got to happen. The Posh Bradford EFL Cup final. So Bradford trying to stop Posh making history, winning that 3 times. Joining a small group. So,
or maybe one of these years we can just do a preseason friendly and have the Hard Truth preseason friendly.
The fact Ryan's probably not speaking to us now because obviously what happened with the Critchlow thing, and people say, no. So look, if Ryan finds us minerals and decides to speak to us, you're not wrong. We should have a preseason friendly. Yeah, we'll have you guys up our way any day of the week. So, all good. Well, listen, right. We're going to sign off to everyone out there. Keep pushing the podcast, keep retweeting, keep forwarding it on. And me and Phil are very appreciative. Last week was unbelievable for the ratings. It was our best season opener in 5 seasons. So long may that continue. The word growth is key to everything.
We got some questions. We're going to hold off on those until the next week or two, but please don't be shy in sending those in, because we do get to read everything. And even if we don't ask the questions, they do help us kind of build the question set for the conversation. So hardtruthfootball.com, contact form there. You can always reach out or via any of the social channels.
Take care, everyone.
All right, then. Good luck this weekend, everyone.